Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to World of Wrestling, here today to discuss about the March 31st, 2021 AEW Dynamite episode. I have got to say this was a decent show. I had fun watching it. There was some things that were really exciting. There was some things that don't particularly care for. But overall, this was a decent show, especially the main event. There was two stars that showed up tonight in the main event of the episode of Dynamite. One being Chris Statlander for the women's division, which I was extremely excited about and happy to see her back on television. She was actually at one point, I think in 2020, in the run to win the AEW Women's Championship. Now, there's a possibility, I think, maybe that's the reason why they kept the title on Shida, so that we could have this matchup between these two women. If that's the case, I'm okay with it. I think that's a really cool deal. Another thing. I felt that the match itself for the arcade match was actually rather decent as well. It was fun. It was entertaining. This wasn't going to build anyone up to being any megastar, but it was a fun main event that I think got people happy. I think it excited people, and I think it was a lot of fun to see guys kick each other's asses in a hardcore matchup to close out the show. Creatively, it's not that big of a deal. Thankfully, Miro did not take the L in this matchup. It was Kip Sabian. Trent actually returned. Trent Beretta is his former full name that he used to go by, but now he just goes by Trent. He finally showed up after injury, and he actually had his mom bring him to the Daily Place during this matchup. So that was kind of cool. Thought that was neat. Another thing I'd like to touch on that was actually a really good match. Yeah, there was some hiccups here and there in the matchup, and it's to be expected, and that's Christian Cage. I'd like to talk about Christian Cage, comparing him to Edge. I don't care to see Christian Cage ever win the AEW World Championship. I don't think that's really necessary. But I got to admit this. He had a far better match with Kazarian than Frankie Kazarian than fucking Edge did with Jey Uso. The match he had with Jey Uso, Edge and Jey Uso's match was just average at best. Very slow and methodical. This matchup, Christian put his all into it. Yes, he did mess up in one spot, I noticed. He was struggling on the top rope also to do a body splash. He was kind of taking his time. In most cases, guys just get propped up there real quick and then launch themselves off the top rope. He was looking like he was having a little bit of trouble holding himself up there. It looked like he was going to fall at one point. He did have another spot where he was on top of the top turnbuckle and managed to do a frog splash that he did a lot better than the body splash earlier in the match. He was in a German suplex and he was trying to counter it by flipping over and landing on his feet, which was unsuccessful. That was the other spot that I found to be not very good. That was actually rather bad. He looked pretty bad in that spot. But overall, despite those two spots that I noticed with Christian, his match with Frankie Kazarian was excellent. I absolutely was stunned on how well he moves around the ring. He does not look like he's performing at the age of 47. He looks like the Christian Cage we knew back 10, 20 years ago type of look. Like when he was wrestling in 2006 with TNA. That's what I kind of saw in Christian Cage here tonight. I thought he did an excellent job with Frankie Kazarian, and I think also Frankie Kazarian can get a lot of credit from this. I think he helped Christian Cage look very good in this match as well. Christian Cage did walk away with the victory. This match looked like I think it went about 20 minutes. And they did an excellent job to start off the show. So kudos to them. Great job. After that, there was a segment with Sting and Darby Allin. They actually have this vignette where Sting and Darby Allin are walking down the street. And they talk about big money Matt Hardy being a shell of himself. And rather than earning respect these days, he's looking to buy people's respect. Allin, wearing Hardy's a Hardy mask, says Matt will have to earn his respect because money doesn't mean shit to him. And that is pretty much the segment in a nutshell. Then we had Jade Cargill send another message to Red Velvet. She says she knows Velvet was shook before they even met in the ring. She says also she looks like money and is already making Tony Khan money. Cargill tells Velvet to keep lifting her little weights and know that Velvet will never beat her in the ring, and I am that woman. I am that bitch. Cargill says to end the segment, and that's pretty much that. Next match on the card was Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall in an exhibition matchup that was unsanctioned. This was shit. I don't even know why they keep pushing this QT Marshall guy. I'm not entertained by him. This was by far the crappiest. There was a swerve here. They actually had some of the students that Cody and QT Marshall are training to eventually move into the dark episodes, to let them perform there, maybe even be enhancement talents for the other guys that are not getting airtime on Dynamite. So that's a possibility of what's going on with that. But they put these guys in the situation where half of them swerved on Cody Rhodes and the Nightmare Family, not the American Nightmare Family. But yeah, they swerved on Cody, some of them, and joined with QT Marshall, and the whole thing was trash. It just was absolute fucking garbage. He punched Arn Anderson in the face while he was refereeing this match. This match was just complete garbage. It was a no contest. And this eventually led to Dustin Rhodes. By the way, he ended up having a bloody face. Whatchamacallit? Fucking Red Velvet came out and she actually stopped QT from doing this, doing a chair shot to Cody's head. He was going to go ahead and unload with a chair shot while Cody's head was on steel steps. And she begged and pleaded him not to do it. It's not something he should want to do. And he eventually backed off, but you see that he's officially now a heel. And really, who the fuck cares? Who gives a shit about QT Marshall? I don't really give a flying fuck what they do with QT Marshall. Get him the fuck off my television. He ain't all that damn important. Fuck him. Jesus. If you're gonna put Cody in a meaningless storyline, just get him the fuck off television and let him go be with his wife. I mean, Jesus Christ. What trash. We had Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page look to be a new tag team. Wait a second. I thought fucking Scorpio Sky was the singles competitor now and was going to look to push himself to become the best of the best and eventually be a world champion. Now he's tag teaming with Ethan Page. He's back in the tag team division? What kind of fucking bullshit is this? I mean, like, what is this crap? He's now partnered up with Ethan Page. Are we out of... is this fucking crazy booking here? This is something I'm going to rant on. I didn't like this. This was stupid. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky do not belong together. They have no reason to be. Now, maybe they did something on Dark, which I see here that they state that. But I don't care. I don't want Ethan Page teaming with Scorpio Sky. I had high hopes for Scorpio Sky. I looked at him as a guy that eventually would become a TNT champion and then move on to the World Championship later on in his career. I don't know how old Scorpio Sky is, but let me just go ahead real quick and see how old he is, because I'm not even sure. I think he's in his 30s. I mean, that's just crazy. This guy is being thrusted into... He's 37 fucking years old. 37 years old, and you're putting him back in the tag team division when he was already there with SCU, which was a successful tag team. If that's what your plans were to begin with, why not just keep him with SCU? They were a good tag team. They were entertaining. You could have made them heels or something. That's so fucking dumb. Really. I think that was absolutely stupid. So Red Velvet tells Dasha that she is Cody's partner and wanted to help him out earlier tonight. Jade Cargill with the ambush attack and throwing Velvet into some stage equipment. And that's how that segment ends. Another segment comes up with Jon Moxley cutting a promo talking about the stuff that he's dealing with in AEW. Moxley is not in a good mood, which he never is anyway. Continuing on, he's not in a good mood with everything that's going on. Says he still doesn't like the Young Bucks, but he still owes them, and that pisses him off. On top of all this, AEW wants him to take on the big man, Cesar Bioni. And he says he might be a guy who could make the company some money, but not if Moxley kills him on the show. Now, Moxley didn't exactly accomplish this, but he ends up beating him anyway with a rear naked choke, a sleeper hold, makes him pass out, and he loses the match, and the match ends. And he wins by submission. He also had, what's his face? Nemeth, who's Dolph Ziggler's brother, try to interfere, but he eats a paradigm shift. And then, like I said, there was a stoppage for submission with the sleeper hold by Jon Moxley to Bioni, and that's it. Then backstage, we have Team Taz hanging out, talking to Taz, reiterating the same bullshit iterated last week. Stated that, hey, Team Taz is good. We're all together. Everything's fine within Team Taz. He's doing this political ploy type of bullshit, making everyone think everything's fine and everything's, bright and dandy, in which case things are not looking good. We see some friction between Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. They discussed about their tag team match on Dark, and Brian Cage was kind of pissed off with Ricky Starks not tagging him in earlier, because they could have won the match a lot sooner than sitting there and having to go longer in the matchup. So that was a big beef that Brian Cage had in that match that they had. So that was pretty much that. But other than that, that was pretty much it. Taz says, hey, look, everything's all right between us and things are dandy. I got a big problem with this whole entire Team Taz split up, because that's where this is going. This team has not even sniffed a year. They haven't been together even for a fucking year. And you want to now all of a sudden break them apart. Why didn't they just have Brian Cage be with Taz? Have fucking Ricky Starks along with him? They could have been a tag team, or they could have been something, or Brian Cage going after the world title, Ricky Starks being the TNT runner-up for that belt. Something like that. They didn't need Will Hobbs and Taz's son and all that bullshit. When they started adding all that shit, that's when things really went down south. Will Hobbs is not really doing much. He's kind of in limbo here. He's not even broke a barrier in my eyes as being a legit guy that you could look at as somebody that can make it on his own creatively. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything special with him to get him over with the fans. Taz's son, Hunter, I think is what his name is. If not, who gives a shit? He's just in development right now. He's, learning wrestling and stuff like that by his dad or by Cody, one of the two. I don't fucking remember. Who gives a shit? But yeah, the main focus of Team Taz should have been fucking Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, and that's it. That's all there should have been. These two guys were doing good, and the only thing they needed was some wins, but creatively they were looking good outside of the losses from the matches they had. Brian Cage shouldn't have been pushed into the world title picture against Jon Moxley so soon. I think that was a big mistake by AEW. That kind of hurt him. And Ricky Starks, he still is... I kind of feel like he's being preserved very well. I don't think he's getting a creative shaft in a way, at least in wrestling matches. I really kind of feel like the best person to take the AEW TNT Championship off of him, of Darby Allin, would either be Lance Archer or fucking Ricky Starks. Those are the two best challengers for Darby Allin. But right now it seems like Darby Allin's focus is on Matt Hardy. Lance Archer last week was discussing about Sting, which we didn't get nothing from Lance Archer this week, which I don't understand why. We were getting it week after week, and then all of a sudden this week they stopped, which made no sense. Seemed like Sting's attention was on Matt Hardy as well with Darby Allin. So that was... the whole thing with that is really fucking weird. So there's been some... I'm not denying anything here. There are some creative decisions AEW is doing that's inconsistent and makes no sense. And I think they're making mistakes here. But I won't discredit the show itself. It was a good show. So... that's not my problem. It's the creative decisions that they're making. Now, the creative decision they did tonight with Pinnacle and the Inner Circle was fucking great. I absolutely loved this segment. It was fucking hilarious, and it was done the right way. Maybe they could have done something a little bit more just to ump the ante here, but they still did the right thing. MJF's talking about the Inner Circle's locker room needs to be changed. They're taking over the Inner Circle's locker room. Their attitude is they want to change it up, get rid of this stinky bathroom and everything, and blah, blah, blah. And MJF opens up the door, and the entire Inner Circle is standing there except for Jake Hager. Jake Hager is actually on the outside of the door when you exit the room, and he shows up and he punches him right in the face, MJF, and MJF sees all these guys in the bathroom. He's like, oh shit, we better go, gotta go. And he opens up the door and Jake Hager punches him right in the fucking mouth, and everybody's getting attacked. Fucking FTR, I think Dax Hardwood, his head was gashed open, he was bleeding to death. We had fucking wood broken over people's backs, and then the part of the wood that broke went in Dax Hardwood's skull. It was fucking great. And best part of it all, MJF's head was shoved in the fucking toilet by good old Chris Jericho. That was fucking awesome. He says, "Here, eat this, you son of a bitch." Sick fucking crap, man. Then he goes in and he takes MJF and throws him right into this beverage machine. It's, it's not like one of those vending machines where you have to put money in. It's just one of those things you open up and you can grab a drink or something. They had that in their locker room. And he shoved his head right through the glass. That was great. I loved it. Jericho and MJF as enemies, as friends, whatever you want to put it, they are fucking great together, either together or apart, being rivals or what have you. I think they're fucking amazing, those two guys. They work very well together, and they feed off of each other's dislike, and they also do a great job as friends. So, I mean, it's really cool how they work together. I mean, I hate MJF still, and I always will until he shows me a different side of his character. But still, I gotta give props to MJF. Every person he's worked with so far, he's done a great job with. Something else I want to address that I'm kind of getting a little concerned with. Hangman Page has not been placed in any kind of important storylines here in the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure why. Since like fucking March 7th, he hasn't done shit. After he beat Matt Hardy, he hasn't done anything. Matt Hardy seems to have more importance on this show than he does. And he beat Matt Hardy and has won a fucking quarter of his money for the year. That makes no sense. That really doesn't. He shouldn't be off television. He should be doing important stuff on the show, and he's not doing a fucking thing, Hangman Page. That kind of sucks. So, that was that with the segment with Inner Circle and Pinnacle. That was actually pretty fucking good. I enjoyed that. From there, we had the Young Bucks being interviewed by Alex Marvez about what happened with them and Kenny Omega on last week's episode. And Matt says they don't want to keep talking about this. Don Callis shows up and tells Nick and Marvez to bounce. Callis tells Matt he needs to listen to something. And Callis says he loves Omega. And he thought Matt loved him too. Callis tells Matt he broke Omega's heart. He says Omega chose AEW for the Young Bucks, and they just left Omega out in the ring on his own. Callis wonders if Matt is just dead inside or if he's just looking to count his money. Callis then slaps Matt as a way to get his attention, and Matt grabs his coat, but doesn't do anything. Callis says, "That's it?" and says Matt is truly pathetic. So apparently Don Callis is trying to get some motivation out of these guys, at least with Matt Buck or Matt Jackson. Yeah, I'm going by that. Okay, Matt Jackson. I think he's trying to get him to bring out the New Japan Young Buck type character that they used to be in New Japan Wrestling and apply it here in AEW, where they have no care in the world. They're fucking tough ass, angry motherfuckers, and they'll kick anyone's ass just to win a belt or win a match or what have you. And I think that's what he's trying to get through him and get him to feel like he used to with Kenny Omega in New Japan Wrestling. I kind of get it, but I kind of don't. Like, the man, Kenny Omega, is doing horrible things. The Young Bucks are not that way anymore. They're stand-up guys. They've matured more. And Kenny Omega's characters kind of went backwards, and I'm not saying in a bad creative way. I'm talking about in the sense of being a fucking cheater and a low-down scumbag type of character. And they don't want to be that way anymore, and that's where the conflict between Don Callis and the Young Bucks are coming from. Now, there's one or two ways they can go about doing this. Keep the Young Bucks just the way they are and have them clash with Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers at some point and have Jon Moxley and them be good buddies. I mean, I don't see that happening. Jon Moxley and them being friends, no. Maybe be allies in a sense of fighting a common enemy. Yes, that most definitely. It could also lead to the Young Bucks granting Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston an opportunity for their tag team titles since they helped them out with Kenny Omega, and Young Bucks were paid back for what they did for Jon Moxley, so they might pay the favor back of, Jon Moxley for wanting to pay them for what they did and showing common courtesy. So that might be the situation that might happen later on down the road, and we may see this at Double or Nothing more than likely. I think that would probably be a good idea, and just have the 6-man tag team matchup with Jon Moxley and the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. I mean, since they're doing 6-man tag team wrestling so much, and they're eventually going to introduce the 6-man tag team titles at some point down the line, more than likely probably Double or Nothing, or at another pay-per-view like All Out. But bottom line, I mean, we could also see the Young Bucks just go ahead and turn heel in the middle of the match with Jon Moxley. And then we have Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, once he's healed from his leg injury, which I don't know how severe it is or if it's legit. I don't look on the dirt sheets. I don't like looking at spoilers. I think it kind of ruins the fun out of watching the shows. And kind of takes my motivation out of watching it anyway, so that's why I just stay away from all dirt sheets. I like hearing about, stuff dealing with the wrestlers' contracts and how they're feeling within the company, stuff like that. That I'll look at, but I won't look at, creative decisions on where they're going with it. I like to see it unfold in front of my eyes instead of me knowing exactly what's going to happen before it happens. I think that kind of sucks. It takes the fun out of being a wrestling fan itself. I know it's part of some people's jobs and what they do because they want to get the scoop on everything that's going on behind the scenes, and that's their decision. There's some people that don't even care. It doesn't affect them in any way of looking up the spoilers of what could be happening in the future for creative storylines. So for those who like that stuff, by all means, go ahead. I don't blame you. I used to be tempted to look at that, and I did, and it took my excitement away from doing that. So I just stay away from all that kind of stuff, and I just wait until the stuff unfolds in front of my eyes. I mean, don't get me wrong, once in a while I will look at something like that if it really catches my attention and it's something that's either really out there, fucking dumb decision making, and I may come on here possibly and talk about it and be pissed off about it, or there's something that's really crazy that's happening that is awesome. I'd like to see what it is, just to know what direction they might be going with this character if it's something really important that I care about. But I don't like to do it too often because it takes the fun out of creative excitement of what they're doing in case they hit something that intrigues me as a fan. So I like to stay away from that stuff as much as possible. But bottom line, I truly feel that more than likely we might see the Young Bucks turn heel on Jon Moxley in a 6-man tag team match going into Double or Nothing, which I do believe they mentioned that I think the Young Bucks are tag teaming with Jon Moxley next week against Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. I think they showed that on the matches that are taking place next week. I didn't really catch it. I was in the bathroom, so I didn't see them going through that, so apologize about that. Next match, though, on the card was Rey Fenix, Pentagon Jr., and Laredo Kid versus Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. It's pretty self-explanatory who the fuck won that match. It was Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. So, that was not hard to know who the hell was going to win that one. But, anyway, my computer's now acting fucking retarded. Give me one sec. I was having a little bit of trouble here. Give me 1 second, guys, to get back to where I was. My computer kind of froze on me here. Alright, here we are. Okay, so yeah, like I said, Kenny Omega won the match with a V-trigger and then a one-wing angel on, I believe it was Laredo Kid, and got the 1, 2, 3, and that's how the match ended. Then the post-match occurred. It was Jon Moxley. Okay, so Jon Moxley showed up out to the stage as Omega and his guys celebrate, and Moxley slowly making his way towards the ring, and out comes Matt and Nick Jackson as well. The 6 competitors face off. Moxley and the Young Bucks get in the ring, but Omega's crew scatters out of the ring. Then we have Britt Baker with Rebel, where she talks about AEW Dark Elevation. Baker says she saw Thunder Rosa being on those cards, and it's great. It's a great place for her to get her wins up, and Baker reminds everyone that their match was unsanctioned, so that win didn't even count. Baker will still be here, though, putting women's wrestling on the map and helping Tony Khan earn money on the side. That's pretty much that. Matt Hardy talks about the Bunny being excluded from the title picture and the women's tournament, but that exclusion won't happen any longer with her and Matt Hardy's Empire. Hardy also notes Tay Conte will pay for the Dark Order sins, and that's pretty much that. Nothing big there. I skipped that fucking match. I was actually watching it DVR'd, so I was a little bit behind on the live portion of the show. So I just skipped right through it. I didn't even care for this. There was nothing special about it. So, yeah, next week we are going to see Jon Moxley and the Young Bucks go up against Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers with Don Callis. That is actually going to be taking place next week. And more likely it will be the main event, if anything, because quite frankly, I could see a heel turn by the Young Bucks, possibly, or see a clean finish somewhere, or at least where there's no backstabbing by the Young Bucks, and we just get a winner out of this match. That's a possibility. So, we will see how things unfold. I am going to go, though, with the Young Bucks turning on Jon Moxley. I really believe that. I think this whole thing is a ruse. I think this is all a big fixed load of bullshit just to set up Jon Moxley to get beat up and humiliated again on television, and that's where I see this going. It probably as the end result of that match. And then the main event was Miro and Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford against Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy in an arcade anarchy. Anything goes, pinfalls or submissions only. And that's the main event, as I already discussed. We had Chris Statlander and Trent show up. Two returning stars from injuries on live television in the main event of the Dynamite episode. And I have to admit, I did enjoy seeing them back on television after, injury. And show was pretty okay. I mean, there was a few hiccups here and there, like I discussed in this video, that I didn't particularly like. I thought there were some mistakes made creatively on television. Like I said, Hangman Page, Lance Archer, these two guys are getting the royal end of the stick creatively. We get 2 weeks of Lance Archer building up towards Sting. Some people were thinking, my best friend was thinking that Lance Archer would be the next guy in line to take the title off of Darby Allin, which is where that was supposed to be leading to. Now we're seeing Matt Hardy being in the picture for the TNT Championship, possibly. I mean, we got all kinds of weirded out shit going on with Darby Allin's TNT Championship, which makes absolutely no sense. I did notice that the TNT Championship will be on the line. Darby Allin's defending it against J.D. Drake, and that is his opponent. Quite frankly, I'm not impressed what they're doing with the TNT Championship. Hangman Page, since Revolution, we have not seen him do anything of importance after the win against Matt Hardy. Can someone please tell me why? This is the guy you should be pushing forward in the future to win the AEW World Heavyweight Championship from Kenny Omega, which is a great story to tell in the future. More than likely, I would say at All Out, because at fucking Double or Nothing, I think that's kind of a little too quick, especially what they're doing right now. They push him into that world title picture, it ain't gonna be anything of importance. They need to get Hangman Page on television week after week, having big wins against big names, and getting him some kind of importance on this fucking show. This is getting ridiculous with Hangman Page. This guy is getting a creative failure here. I don't like what they're doing with him. He's not doing nothing. He's in limbo. He won Matt Hardy's money for a quarter of the year. The first quarter of the year. And now he's doing nothing. Why would they have him do that? Why isn't he doing stuff with the Dark Order? Maybe, acknowledging him as the leader of the team. I mean, evolving the fucking faction of the Dark Order, changing them up a bit, making them more serious again, like they did with Brody Lee. But come on, man, this is getting fucking ridiculous with Hangman Page. Get him on his own, keep him with the Dark Order, and get them with a serious act again, or fucking do something with him, but don't have him sit on the sidelines doing nothing. Come on, this is the guy that your first real new star on your show, winning the World Heavyweight title. I mean, Kenny Omega already was a built-up star to begin with in New Japan Wrestling. If you're a hardcore wrestling fan, you knew who the fuck Kenny Omega was. I mean, granted, here in the United States, maybe not too many people know Kenny Omega as a person, but if you're a hardcore wrestling fan, you knew who the fuck he was and what he did outside of AEW. And Jon Moxley, if you don't watch WWE, well, then you're not a fucking wrestling fan at all, despite the fact of how horrible fucking WWE is. But everyone knows WWE and the stars that came from there. So don't give me that shit. And Chris Jericho, I mean, my God, if you were born in the 90s or the 80s, you knew who fucking Chris Jericho was. And what he has done in his career. So, please, the last 3 champions are not guys that are first time ever winners of a world title. Give me a fucking break. Hangman Page is if they do it right, he will be their first ever official built star on their show with a world championship reign. And with the story that he has with Kenny Omega after they lost the tag team titles, would be an absolute thrill ride to see him go through hell trying to get and capture that World Heavyweight Championship. It would mean so much to that company to build him up because he is one of their top tier stars in the making. And then you got MJF, of course, which would be Hangman Page's nemesis for the World Heavyweight Championship down the road. Or very near future, right after he beat Kenny Omega for the World Championship. I mean, you got a fucking diamond in the rough here, and you're not shining him the fuck up. Why? You got him sitting on the sidelines, pretending he's got Matt Hardy's money for the first quarter of the year. Give me a fucking break, man. What a fucking joke. That's the one thing I'm pissed off about, and Lance Archer. Lance Archer's another one. He's a giant. He makes Braun Strowman look stupid, okay? Braun Strowman is an idiot, and they are producing him on television that way on Monday Night Raw, from what I hear from YouTubers doing reviews on Monday Night Raw. I mean, it's fucking crazy. Lance Archer is a fucking kick-ass character, and if they put a little bit more effort into him, he'd be looking great as well, and they're not. These are 2 guys that I really had high hopes for, and they're not doing nothing with them at this time. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's just 1 week with Lance Archer off the show. They may do the right thing and get him back on track, but they shouldn't have taken him off television this week. And Hangman Page, he hasn't done shit in 2 weeks. He had a match with a fucking enhancement talent, and that was it. He hasn't done nothing since in the last 2 weeks. Had a backstage segment talking with John Silver about his match with Darby Allin, and this week he wasn't even there at all in any segment. I don't quite understand this fucking shit. This is fucking crazy. But that's my rant on AEW's creative. Outside of that and a few other things, they're doing okay though. They're not going to be perfect, but my God, man. Don't bail on Hangman Page. He's a guy that you could build around and make into a top-tier face. Most definitely. But at this time, guys, I am talked out. My voice is starting to go. I need to give my voice a rest. I got work tomorrow anyway. So you know what to do. Hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel, of course. And leave a comment down below, and I'll definitely get back to you on that. And I thank you very much for watching. Have a great night, guys. Bye.